Welcome to Tidbit Talkin. This series is just spewing out assorted thoughts about boatloads of entertainment media. Some ideas are serious, others not so much. There will be spoilers for the series currently featured, but generally only vague references to any other connected ones in a shared universe. Now, with all that out of the way, here we go. Din can't just straight up be killed because doing so would either destroy nature entirely, or at least make it completely unstable, which would render Twin Rova's revival plan a truly impossible task. A tree stump is necessary for using that swanky surrounding shifting staff, because it's something that is still always at least half connected to the planet. Also, using junk which is fully alive wouldn't really be befitting of the Nature in Charge Oracle, since it might overwhelm and actually kill said hypothetical thing. Kinda ruins the whole protect all life job description bit. The Temple of Seasons may simply just provide balance for its namesake's power, not create it, period. Everything must work in an entire atmosphere encompassing magical swirl kind of deal that starts from a central point and then slowly spreads out over time. Thus, only the core, that being Holodrum, winds up all weather screwy during this adventure. Mr. Hero must have taken care of things quickly enough to prevent the rest of this world from getting all meteorologist nightmare-inducing. Countries the main character isn't a resident of tend to house audible key presence signaling compasses more often because they possess a unique ore required for making devices which produce such lovely tones. Seed Satchel squat inside a champion potential honing dungeon in Holodrum, but not Labrina, because the former place's powerful nature magic makes using it far too tricky for mental and physical discipline lacking hands. On that note, there must be some sort of shredded sorcery stuff lining this bizarre bag's inside, which activates the thing's powers as they are swiped along its walls or whatever. Hence how these deals can be put into the ground and safely cause a tree to grow, just like any other plant junk under different circumstances. The exterior and interior design some of this place's dungeon sport may have inspired later Links and Zeldas to implement similar supernatural security systems in future Hyrule labyrinths. Battler benefiting boomerangs are a dance prize because somebody footwork fancy enough would always be capable of getting into a position where such things could be safely caught, no matter how rough an opponent was being faced. Something so simple as a reasonably heavy rod would be quite suited for changing seasons, since simple small-time smugglers or what have you wouldn't have hero matching might levels and thus be incapable of causing too much havoc if they managed to swipe it at any point. Santa Fangirl gifts the intruder this shovel despite her justified pissed offness because she knows Saint Nick is actually watching her, and that giving to others is a pretty good way to secure a firm, nice-list position. Floodgate Guardian guy lost that key because he was messing around with his mini prototype system to figure out how one might make improvements for the real deal. Dude wouldn't be aware of such an important doodad getting misplaced because this is something he does all the time. Vasu is able to confidently leave rings lying around for Link helping whatnot because he has one that lets him sense where people who seek such things will wind up. This guy must have originally been painting a nice spring day before saying screw it and just going with the only thing now regularly visually available. That being a weird hodgepodge of all the seasons mixed together due to certain crazy fluctuation hoopla. The Master's spin and hit all these statues test is a thing because he needs to make sure only folks with well-working eyes go underwater with his inventions. There may be worry about getting cursed in a lawsuit mimicking manner if someone hurts themselves due to incompetence after grabbing them. Guy simply keep himself nicely covered in a magically legal sense. This locale normally doesn't wind up submerged during spring-summer because the snow naturally melting gradually lets it all evaporate and thus engage in other water cycle associated malarkey properly. The place is actually called Sunken City because it's simply lodged inside a little valley depression deal on this mountain range. Red Goron that upgrades your mystical enhancement accessory holding box may very well be capable of this marvelous feat because his whole species must regularly resize ring-related ruckus so the ones made for smaller species can properly fit them. Fool's Ore is actually quite useful as a weapon. Despite this, the name is an appropriate one because only that kind of person would battle beasts with such a poor range having what's-it. These two bury Rock's feather in this obviously already dug up spot they found that once held a certain stupid stone because they think it's a lucky dirt patch which will cause them to run into more people who drop cooler junk whenever the soil gets moved around enough. The Sabrosians can dig out mountains and fill up tunnels with elevator whatnot astonishingly fast because their entire species survival depends on such skills. A flying cuckoo is incredibly dangerous when not held properly because in its species' trademark super infuriated state it gains greater momentum than any other creature. Getting carried by something with super speed isn't really all that fun when it's mad with fury. That statement's not redundant, it's a pun. The prevalence of minecarts in Holodrum might be because those goofy underground people initially built them all while hanging out semi-topside before moving completely down below. Those delightful Gorons would have maintained and upgraded everything once they moved in shortly afterwards. Twin Rova probably had some spare Aghanim wizardly priest robes lying around that she brought to life by possessing them with a Poe or whatever. This sign-savoring subversion loves the message-spreading thing, because making ones that survive in lazily lethal lava land is really difficult, and thus respectful as a high form of art. The girl in Holly's house, holding onto a secret for authors from Symmetry Village, doesn't know about Link's time travel abilities. She simply thinks they might be part of a long-lived species like Zora's or whatever. Farore's power as Oracle of Secrets must be pulling away bits from possible timelines. Nobody kidnaps her or anything because they fear this obscenely mighty ability. This villain fright is especially prominent when they imagine her bringing forth a not-sleeping Master Sword. An ancient subsoil surfing Sir must have invented the magnetic gloves in a bid to gain an edge over other ore miners. Once he figured out they couldn't affect the type his tribe uses as currency, he gifted them to some upper people as a goodwill national relations improving kinda deal. The folks of this lost civilization must have experimented with magic to summon like so enemy armies could be dealt with via grossly horrifying resource depletion. The spell spiraled out of control and eventually led to their ruin. As a last resort, this area got cursed by said witchcraft, so their treasured magically advanced sword could at least be protected from foes long after they went extinct or whatever. Twin Rova decides to confront Mr. Plucky Nemesis in front of these ancient ruins because this place reminds them of their own dilapidated homestead. In cases where Link finds an upgraded item, he doesn't discard the older one. Guy just safely keeps it in supernatural storage until he can properly donate it to whichever local help by him recently tried needs it most. There is an unseen hallway underneath this desert. Things not shown when one goes up the various stairs because it's too uncomfortably cramped for Commander Green Trousers to want to focus on his surroundings too much. There are things like Stalgos, and these Pyrations still get seasick because they are part of an experiment that led to the standard skeletal soldier's development. They were originally people who got enchanted before death in hopes that they'd live on forever. The flesh decayed, but not the practical effects of personality and other bodily function memory-filled brain organs. Thus, they still must eat and can experience other digestive system-related craziness, such as the aforementioned ocean illness. Shops all stock level 2 shields after that Master Smith forges one, because the doing whatever part was making extra with some surplus hard ore. The temple remains don't line up so perfectly with those bits falling into Subrosia because certain seasonal spirits quickly remodeled their abode in order to prevent total global destruction and everything. Sometimes Supreme Sorcery Sisters send sentinels made purely from their power to both help ensure Link's defeat and also keep an eye on how close he's getting to reaching Onyx and rescuing Din if that first part doesn't work out so well. Something along the lines of, if our sinister super soldier dies, then the civilization helping fellow must be X strong. This Medusa boss might be regularly employed by high influence having evil individuals as some sort of grotesque construction method utilizing architects. The large Maku seeds can disrupt evil magic fields because they are meant to make mystical beings of pure good and thus can screw with bad mumbo-jumbo's rules. What Link went through to get you both the above and below ground Temple of Seasons parts, and that last dungeon in particular, was probably enough demolition for a certain Destruction Flame's magical ignition. The Rod of Seasons must be enchanted to never hurt Din, just in case she slept funny on it or something. The presence of a Triforce mark on this hero's hand could very well be because that A Link to the Past ending made wish granted ownership to his soul for as long as its current vessel remained intact, or at least an identical one was around. Perhaps the gods even let his reincarnating spirit keep it for a bit, so that formerly dark world can become fully, gloriously golden once again. After a long hiatus following the ocarina-wielding Time Protector's death, Impa's family services as royal bodyguards would have been reinstated after those wacky maiden kidnapping shenanigans made extra security seem absolutely vital. Somewhat on that note, non-Hyrule lands are extra wary about a chosen savior not being prepared because they know of how that one from the aforementioned place died long ago. In particular, those with magical guardian trees don't want to be an epic screw-up like that older Deku one. The Song of Storms must have become famous worldwide after that windmill guy in OOT got over his fast spin handling problem and realized this tune could make him rich by helping end all droughts forever. Endings are a pain, but all of you are fantastic. See ya.